All right, so here's a little bit more about using position versus time graphs. All right, now that we know them. Okay, so if I have a position versus time graph, okay, I know that the slope of this graph is telling me the velocity, okay, or how fast something's going. And the y-intercept is telling me the initial position, okay, where it started when I started the timer. Okay, it doesn't have to be where it started, like at the beginning of all time in the world, right? But it's when you start the timer, the initial position, okay? All right, so if I see something like this, right, this is 0, which just means like on my number line, this is 0, okay? And if this is like negative 20, that just means on the ruler it started like to the left of 20, okay? Versus something, oops, I don't want that color, okay? Maybe like this that started at positive 20. Okay, so that would have started to the right of this 0 position. Okay, all right, and so this just tells you kind of like the ruler reading on this side. Okay, and then time tells you like the clock reading. All right, okay, so a couple things you're going to need to be able to do. One, calculate the velocity from the slope. Okay, so the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so you're basically just going to pick like 2 points, like maybe 0, 20, and then maybe this is like 380 or something, right? Okay, so if I did that, I would go 80 meters minus 20 meters over 3 seconds minus 0 seconds, which would be 60 meters in 3 seconds or 20 meters per second. Okay, so that's one thing that you're going to need to be able to do is calculate the slope. All right, so if the slope of the graph is telling me how fast it's going, visually, you'll be able to look at it and see, right? So like if I saw something like this, okay, versus a guy that looks like this, right, I could see that B is going to be faster because his slope is steeper, okay? A is going to be slower because A has a more shallow slope. The number wouldn't be as big, all right? So when visually you're looking at a graph, you can see who's moving faster by seeing which slope is steeper, okay? All right, similarly, this comes out to be a positive number. So I could have a situation, right, where maybe like somebody looks like this, okay? And then maybe somebody looks like this, okay? So when I calculate this number, maybe this is 20 meters per second, and maybe when I calculate this, it actually comes out to be negative 10 meters per second. Okay, this means it's moving in a negative direction, okay? Or if you look at the physics classroom meetings, they call that leftward, right? Because you're just basically trying to look at the number line, okay? If I'm moving this direction, that's positive, right? Because the numbers are getting bigger. If I'm moving this direction, that would mean I'm moving in a negative direction, all right? So you need to be able to calculate the slope, okay, and you need to be able to determine the direction, also based on the slope. Okay, right? So if something is positive 20 meters per second or negative 10 meters per second, we call this a velocity. Okay, velocity just means speed with direction. Okay, so the 20 is the speed part. The positive is the direction part. So both of those together make a velocity of positive 20 meters per second. Okay, 10 is the speed part. That's the value or the magnitude of how fast it's going. Negative is the direction part, okay, which according to our situation, we're going to say would mean moving to the left when I look at it. All right. Same thing with the y-intercept. Okay, where that's wherever it starts. So if it starts down here, right, at like negative 15 meters, or up here at, say, positive 20 meters, and it could go either direction, right? It doesn't matter, okay? That's the same thing when I'm looking at this number line. This is 0. Negative 15 would just mean it's over here, and this one was moving in a positive direction, so it would go this way. Okay, and then positive 20 would be over here, right? And it could either be moving in a positive direction or a negative direction, okay? Or this one could too. They could go either way, okay? So that y-intercept value is just telling you basically where it starts on the number line, all right? Let me see what else is in the readings. I think that's it, okay? And everything's going to be a line, right? Because it's just telling us that it's a constant velocity, right? That change is the same, just like we saw in the bowling ball.